In his 2009 TEDx presentation, Dr. Kim Young-tae made a great analogy, comparing the contemporary view of education to the narrow slice of visible light within the whole of the electromagnetic spectrum. Anyone who has been watching the new version of Cosmos can tell you that Neil deGrasse Tyson reminds us that most of the universe would not be visible without looking beyond the limitations of the visual spectrum. My name is David Madsen, and I'd like to look at bringing flow theory into what we can see within the classroom. Flow is an immersive state of mind one enters while engaging in an activity. Following flow as a means of educating students creates new conditions for learning, offers students an improved experience, and results in more interest, motivation, and uninhibited dedication to learning activities. In 1921, A.S. Neal created the Summerhill School, focused on the principle that the purpose of education was for students to find happiness. Investigating flow will add validity to Neal's philosophy. Flow should be investigated because too often today students are bored with school. Studying flow within the classroom will verify the effects of flow. Adding to the research of flow theory can provide more ammunition for the argument that schools are institutions for students. Student performance as well as student satisfaction should be equal goals. Maybe it would help if school systems looked at education from a customer service perspective. Students are the school's customers who expect a useful and enjoyable product for their expense. As customer service representatives, teachers need to provide individualized attention to their student customers, and a flow model of learning structures activities based on students' unique needs. A major problem is that education formats have not kept up with the changing times. Collective education arose as a way to deal with the world becoming more globally connected during the 18th century. And early public schools were formatted to function as a way to generate workers during the Industrial Revolution. Today, not much has changed at the core level of school structures. In the post-technology age, businesses need a different type of employee, and in the post-information age, students have different needs. Let's hear a little bit of what Dr. Tae has said about teaching and learning mixed in with a flow activity like skateboarding.
What's wrong with our current culture of teaching and learning? I can summarize the problem in 2 words. School sucks. Kids say this all the time and nobody listens, but now I'm saying it, and it's an idea we need to start taking very seriously. Because it's true, school does suck. If schools and school reforms are going to be effective, they have to be designed to help people learn. Here's how schools are typically structured. There's a school year divided into terms, and in each term there are specific courses available and a fixed amount of time to learn the material in each course, and the instructor evaluates the student somehow and gives out grades. None of these features are necessary for learning, and I think they actually interfere with the learning process. Schools have rigid timetables, fixed amounts of time for learning material. That's incredibly stupid. All that does is stop us from developing the kind of persistence we need for real learning and real understanding. If you're learning something new, it doesn't make the least bit of sense to decide ahead of time exactly how long it's supposed to take you to learn it. That's like saying, I'm going to get an F if I don't land my skateboarding trick in 10 tries, or I'm never going to understand the fundamental theorem of calculus if I can't do it in a week. No. If there's something you really have to learn, you keep working your ass off until you figure it out. And that's crucial for math and science education. Just like skateboarders struggling with new tricks, students need to learn how to struggle with new ideas without getting cut off. Next, it's surprising how many schools place authority and coercion at the foundation of their learning environments. Instead of giving good reasons for learning, teachers give threats in the form of bad grades. That just pits teachers and students against each other, and most experienced teachers know that you can't really force someone to learn something if they don't want to learn it. But that's exactly what our schools try to do. Real learning is largely self-motivated. If students have good reasons to learn, they'll want to learn. And a self-motivated student paired with the right mentor can learn a lot. In schools, grades also give students a sense of false certification. It's disturbing how many students think they've mastered something just because a teacher gave them an A in a class. In real learning, students have to be honest in evaluating themselves. They can't kid themselves about how much they've learned. For example, the skateboarding trick I did in the video. Here's the honest assessment. I only landed that trick once, and I can't pretend I mastered it. With skateboarding and calculus and physics, nobody ever gets it first try, and we can't let students think they've mastered something just because they've seen it once. Mastery takes practice. Schools also have to worry about preventing cheating and other forms of academic dishonesty. It would be way easier to have a culture that just didn't give incentives to cheat, like grades. If your goal is to learn something properly, there isn't much point in faking it. And in skateboarding, I'm not even sure what it means to cheat. I don't know how to cheat in skateboarding. It doesn't really exist. It's not applicable. So there you have it. If we want to improve education, especially math and science education, we should make it more like skateboarding. But if you ever want to ruin anything, make it more like school.
By experimenting with flow-based lesson planning in the classroom, it can be shown that flow contributes to increased student motivation and higher performance scores. Students' individual flow conditions can be determined through narrative interviews designed to define the unique patterns of a student's temperament, motivations, and skills. Teachers can create flow in the classroom by individualizing education to each student's particular needs. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi adapted the term flow from interviews he conducted in his pursuit to find the roots of happiness. Building on a participant's own motivations is where flow starts. Formulating activities to meet a student's conditional needs and attending to his or her own relevant purposes makes the experience personally enriching and worth pursuing. Csikszentmihalyi and others have found that informative interactivity was the key for holding a person's attention. A constant update of goals and strategies through feedback from input increases a sense of control, reduces anxiety, prevents boredom, assists motivation, and encourages persistence. During flow, the learning experience is optimized, learner growth is positive, and student engagement is intense. One of the most ubiquitous aspects of flow is a special consciousness in which action and awareness merge. Reactions become automatic, and the participant becomes defined by the activity. Such intense focus on a task is what distorts the perception of time and increases brain activity. Time may appear to pass more slowly or become elongated, so complex tasks can be articulated with necessary precision at high rates. Dropping anxiety over control is part of being enveloped in an experience, opening oneself up to possibility, and of shutting out peripheral concerns. Control of our actions and our environment makes us masters of our fate, which opens the doors to exhilaration and deep enjoyment that makes memories. Adolescent students are particularly vulnerable to the forces of their ego, but flow brings students beyond the barriers of the self, and effort becomes focused on the experience. A freed consciousness is necessary for a student to open up to their full potential and be fully expressive and receptive to new knowledge and enlightenment. Pure enjoyment comes from blocking out reflection and contemplation in favor of the present moment. Students can find a sense of ecstasy in the learning experience through flow, which brings them returning to the process in a search for that better reality. A flow environment is more positive in general. Flow represents satisfaction and makes the learning process encouraging. Finally, any transcendent experience that takes a participant beyond their static self and leaves them with something more is inherently motivating, which can bring learning out of the classroom and into everyday pursuit. The flow experience is autotelic. A student finds rewards directly and simply from participating in the activity. Increased student engagement means better performance, higher grades, more credits, better attendance, and more effective learning from activities. The experimental study proposed will collect qualitative as well as quantitative data. The research will provide information on the potential for flow in the classroom and how flow affects student performance. K-12 students will be chosen from a representative spread across the country from both public and private schools. For an even division and statistical significance, 1,000 students will be monitored for the study. Participating students will be randomly selected for either experimental or control groups. Students will be assigned a number to protect their identity and will be assigned to groups by lottery. Research for this study will begin 1 year before the official trial. Planning and approval will take place within the following months. Recruitment will begin the winter before the trial. During the spring semester, chosen participants will be interviewed to establish flow conditions. Over the summer before the start of the trial, teachers and researchers will work together to generate IEPs for the students' flow-based learning. For the duration of the fall semester, students will receive individualized education plans and report on their flow experiences. At the end of the semester, student participants will complete an exit survey. During the weeks following the trial, all data will be analyzed and the research will be published. While narrative interviews establish a basis for students' flow, experience sampling captures flow in action. Students record their flow experiences on a short questionnaire during each activity to provide data as close to the experience as possible. In addition to recording flow, experience sampling also acts as a check for an IEP's effectiveness. The exit survey is an event reconstruction survey that is meant to measure the summative semester experiences and can reveal standout moments that experience sampling might miss. From event reconstruction data, trends can be extracted that reveal the changes flow experiences affect over time, in addition to monitoring experimental validity and for informing future experimental implementation. Comparing all flow experience data to student achievement scores across all groups is expected to reveal the effects of flow-based practices on the performance of students. With the aid of electronic software, data will be organized into tables for deciphering correlations. Study conclusions will also be compared against other studies to confirm quality of results. Study data will be posted in an interactive table on the study website. Today, only a few schools are operating on student-centered methods. If ideas behind flow become more mainstream, students will benefit from a system that recognizes their needs and interests as central to planning. Improved conditions for students are expected to translate into higher achievement. Ultimately, through research, the proven impact of flow can translate into benefits for students.